Essentially in the center of the oldest piece of crust that we know in Canada, the Slave Province. And you can, considering that what we found from this one site here, you got to think of this is downtown diamond country.
When Stu Blusson describes his life, it seems his journey to finding diamonds in Canada was predestined. His reverence for nature, passion for flying, and talent for mapping all led him down a path that resulted in the creation of a multi-billion-dollar industry in Canada's north. Stu Blusson was born in Vancouver in 1938 and moved to Powell River when he was in grade 7. As a teenager, his love of the outdoors had him working at a hunting and fishing lodge, where he met a prospector.
Well, he told me about a prospecting course that winter. Before I went to college, my brother and I took it. It was put on by the Chamber of Mines. And that hooked me on studying rocks.
In 1957, Stu got a job with the BC Forest Service, where he learned how to study aerial photos.
I could spot an individual tree in the forest and figure out what distance I had to chain in to get to that tree or something, so we could get to that tree, even in a forest setting. I mean, imagine that, how powerful that is as a means of locating yourself.
Following his graduation from UBC in honors geology, he received his PhD from the University of California, Berkeley. In California, he also learned to fly fixed-wing aircraft. Next, Stu joined the Geological Survey of Canada and honed his skills, mapping the Yukon and Northwest Territories.
He's a great mapper. He's a great observer. He's a super observer. He's the best mapper I think I've ever seen. He saw things and was able to follow things that very few people saw.
Dirk says the first conversations about finding diamonds in Canada surfaced in 1969, when he, Stu Blusson, and Chuck Fipke sat around a campfire while working for the Geological Survey of Canada.
I mean, he had that commitment, and he never wavered. You know, that's what people who hunt for minerals are all about, having that commitment and believing that it's there, or knowing that it's there when everybody else knows it's not.
Why wouldn't Canada have diamonds? I mean, it just makes obvious geologic sense that it would.
Stu and Chuck weren't the only ones looking for diamonds in the Northwest Territories. Rocks containing indicator minerals had caught the attention of prominent diamond producer De Beers.
We started sampling the area that we had a prospecting permit on, which was essentially tied on to De Beers but went into older rocks. And that's when I realized that, well, we're out to lunch too.
This is when Stu's expertise in mapping gained at the Geological Survey of Canada came into play. He spent a summer going over maps and realized that the rocks in the glacial eskers that carried diamond indicator minerals had originated from bedrock 500 kilometers to the east near Lac de Gras. It was also the unique method they used to hunt for the diamonds that made them successful.
Our sampling technique was to use a float plane and concentrate on beaches where the esker system, where you can see an esker coming through here and the beach coming off it.
Stu and Chuck discovered the largest kimberlite field in North America, in the Lac de Gras region of the Northwest Territories.
But we could find pipes really quickly. In fact, one afternoon, I think Chuck and I found 17. I did that because, you see, you could actually visually see them. I'm flying the helicopter and Chuck's recording on the map where they are, and I'm pointing out, well, look at Chuck over there. How about this? Look at over there. How about that one?
Just about 10 kilometers from that site now sits the Inductee mine, which opened in 1998. It was operated through a joint venture with BHP Billiton, arranged by Hugo Dummett. It was Hugo who helped Stu and Chuck realize that one of the keys to finding diamonds was the quality of the indicator minerals. A production milestone of 50 million carats was reached in 2011. The Inductee mine is now owned by Dominion Diamonds. Future development of the new J Pit has the potential to extend the mine life into 2030.
It wasn't all easy, and it wasn't all like fell into their laps. There was a lot of tough times.
So 86, 87, we didn't grow. We had no funding to grow it. We had a 22% second mortgage on our house in Vancouver. And so even to scrape together $6,000 for us in a season would have been tricky, because by this time our impatient private investors were kind of, like thinking twice about continuing.
Their key sample taken in 1985 wasn't evaluated until 1988. It sat in a garage until they had enough funding to test it. They ended up staking claims to almost 1 million acres and kicking off a staking rush in the north that saw various companies tie up 20 million acres. Their find spawned a multi-billion-dollar diamond industry in Canada, making it the world's third largest producer of diamonds. For Stu, a life outdoors was a life filled with adventure.
With Stu, fieldwork was never routine or dull or boring. There was always adventures. There was always stuff that wasn't really planned that we had to react to or whatever.
On one occasion, the helicopter Stu was traveling in crashed shortly after dropping off Dirk.
I could hear them flying away, and I could hear them circling an area not very, very far away, and then suddenly I didn't hear it anymore.
I was on the left side when we went in, and the other side was mangled by the blade and transmission that came right through the cabin.
Life on the ground was just as exciting, with wildlife encounters like coming face to face with a lynx and surviving a bear attack.
And this strange sound, and I look around just around this outcropping, and it was a bear chewing snow. Can you imagine? How would you ever know what that sounds like? The snow was falling out of his mouth. He turned around and looked at me with stuff, and then he just leaped. As soon as he saw me, he just rushed right at me. Anyway, I managed to sidestep out and jump out of the way, but he came back up the slope and took a swipe at me and got my arm.
Like most prospectors, for Stu, it's not as much about the money, but about the thrill of the find.
He's obviously extremely intelligent, and I think he likes challenges, and whether the challenge is finding a new mine or finding some new geologic concept or proving some geologic theory or exploration technique or whatever, I think that's what drives him most.
Stu's success has allowed him to share his wealth. He has contributed to and obtained matching grants that total almost $500 million. At 77, Stu Blusson is just as enthusiastic about his diamond project as the day it was discovered, is still flying helicopters, and is still as happy to be out in the field as when he was a young boy who loved the outdoors.